So my tech review, I promised I would tell you more about the regen system in this car. And oh boy am I happy, because for once we have all the choices available, right? We have full customization, all the options available to us, and you can use them as you wish. Again, I know it's a question that a lot of people ask: what is the real world driving range of this new Hyundai Kona? Well, I've been driving it around today. Let me tell you what pisses me off a bit is the fact that this car, the full electric SUV segment, is perhaps one of the most crowded and most competitive, which means if you want to stand out, you have to make sure as a car manufacturer you are checking all, if not most, of the boxes. This is the driving video of the all-new Hyundai Kona 2024 model. Today I'm taking it out for a drive, telling about the different driving modes, driving experience, safety features, regen, which is very interesting in this car, and so much more. But as always, I'm Luke, and welcome to another episode of The Future is Electric. So let's talk a bit about the design language of this car, both the exterior and here the interior of the cabin. So of course it is drawing a lot from the Hyundai Ioniq 5. However, what I think they do very well in this design is that I think the Ioniq 5 has a bit of a polarizing effect where you either like it a lot or you frankly don't. I think with this, the Kona, the new Kona, they've managed to strike that great balance where they integrate elements of futurism, but at the same time not overdoing it. And they're doing that on the outside and on the inside. One thing to note about the outside, I do recommend you see the car in person. The first time I saw images and videos of it myself, of course, the first thing that strikes and takes your eye is that full light bar. They're calling it a horizon bar across the front of the vehicle. That's the daytime running light. But I think that takes away so much attention to the contours and shape of the vehicle, which you do need to appreciate in person. Now, the interior of the car, again, it draws a lot from the Ioniq 5, right? The design language here is very nice, but again, it doesn't go too far, right? If you are somebody who likes a very futuristic design, then the Ioniq 5 is for you. For everybody else, and this is what and who this car is appealing to, this design language, you know, it's modern. It's two nice big 12-inch screens, you know, paddles behind the steering wheel, physical buttons, which I know a lot of people tend to enjoy for their air conditioning controls, etc. So there's a lot of elements of futurism here, but at the same time, again, I think they've struck the perfect balance. Another thing I want to highlight, and again, it just goes to show that the people designing this car have really thought things through, and you start to see it in the little nuances in the vehicle, which makes such a big difference. So for example, the cup holders, they're there, or you can collapse them when you don't need them for more space. That is a little feature which makes a difference. Another thing I really like is the fact that you can optionally get the charge port flap to be heated. So I know in a lot of the northern countries where the cars get covered in ice and snow, right? You do not want to end up with your charge port essentially frozen shut. So you can actually get a heater for it. But again, it is optional. So not everyone has to pay for it and fork out the expense for a feature which is relevant to certain markets. So here in Malta, we do not need that. The charge port as well gets a little light, which is essential for literally finding where you have to plug in your cable in the dead of the night. So that's very nice to see. In terms of the visibility you get in the car, so the front is great. The mirrors are also nice and big to give you a nice view of what's to the side of you. and behind you. Looking back, that last pillar in the car is a bit thick, so it does cover, although it's not the worst we've seen, to be fair. But what I really like, which does help a lot with the visibility, is the fact that when you turn on the indicators, right, you get the camera view right here in the dashboard. So this car has 5 cameras around the vehicle, 2 on either of the mirrors, which again, as soon as you turn on the indicator, you get a display of that camera here, so you can very easily see your blind spots. Now, besides those 2 side cameras, there's a camera facing the rear of the vehicle, as is common, right? And then there are 2 cameras facing forward. One is used for our 360 camera view, which undoubtedly is one of the best 360s in the industry. And the other front-facing camera, that's the one found in the windshield here, that is used for the level 2 autonomous driving features, which I'll get into in a second. Another standout feature has to be the increased boot space. It's a 30% increase over the outgoing Kona model. In fact, it's 466 liters of space, which again, for a family SUV, that is very, very good to see. So my tech review, I promised I would tell you more about the regen system in this car. And oh boy, am I happy, because for once we have all the choices available, right? We have full customization, all the options available to us, and you can use them as you wish. So firstly, what on earth is regen? If you're coming from internal combustion engine car, I know you have that question. So regen, or regenerative braking, is the electric car's ability to recharge the battery as you are driving. Now it's going to do that when the car is slowing down. So in a traditional fuel car, when you press on the brakes, you essentially convert that energy, that momentum, to heat. In an electric car, or a car with a high voltage battery, basically what they're doing is, instead of applying the usual braking system, right, they're using the electric motor's ability to run in reverse essentially and put energy back in the batteries. And electric cars do this very well. In fact, they regenerate or recoup up to 20%, which is quite a significant number. Now, all the electric cars we've driven have regenerative braking, right? But usually it comes in a few different varieties or types. This Kona essentially is giving us all the options available. So for starters, the regenerative braking level, or how much, is controlled from the paddle shifters behind the steering wheel, A+ and A-. And there are 4 regeneration levels, starting from 0, where you can turn the system completely off, 1 for a bit stronger regeneration, 2 and 3 for the maximum, for the top level. I wouldn't say maximum, because then they have, if you press the plus symbol again a 4th time, you get to what they call their I-pedal mode. So this is new in the Kona. We saw it in the Ioniq 5, but it's new for the Kona. And this is a true one-pedal driving experience. It means you can drive the car using just the accelerator pedal, because the braking forces applied when you lift off that pedal are enough to completely stop the car. And let me tell you, in traffic, this is a godsend, right? It is so comfortable to drive with. Now, what's interesting here is what they do is basically the regeneration strength is not enough to completely stop the car. So there is a transition at a certain point in time when the normal brakes kick in, sort of, and you don't notice it, right? That little transition between the braking systems, but it is enough to then fully stop the car. Now, another very interesting feature available to us here in the Kona is what they call their smart regeneration. So this is using a multiple sensors and the camera systems in the car to understand the road conditions, and particularly what is happening in front of you. And the car will essentially adjust the regen strength and preempt you in slowing down automatically. It's not the first time we've seen this, but again, it's the first time we're seeing all these features available to us as a package. So another nice feature we have here with the Regen, and again this is nice because it is using the paddle shifters behind the steering wheel, is that even if you do not have the Regen on or set at a high level, if you just tap and hold the pedals, they actively slow down the car. So, and it's sort of a little jolt. So as the traffic in front of me here is coming to a halt, I just pull back on the plus sign to increase my regen, and I'm slowing down the car without using the brake pedal down here. This is another extremely comfortable feature, and I'm sure once you get used to it, you will be using it a lot. So what's nice here, I'm going down this hill, quite a steep hill, and I am not using the brake pedal at all. I'm literally just controlling using the paddle shifters. The Regen is also set to that auto mode, so it is taking care of the braking for me a bit as well. And I'm telling you, it is really a completely different way to drive, right? But it's so comfortable. You definitely have to try it out for yourself. And what I love here is that the driver has the choice. Okay, if you don't want it on, you can turn it off. But if you want it on, like I do, you can definitely adjust it to your liking. So Regen definitely checks all the boxes for me when it comes to this car. So now of course you can also play with a number of different driving modes, toggled from down here in the center console from this very fancy spring-loaded switch. So we have our eco mode, our normal mode, our sport mode, and even a mode for snow, which we won't be using here in Malta. Now one thing I like, and this is quite unique that I found in this car, is the fact that the eco mode, which limits the power of the electric motor, in most cars I've tried also limits the air conditioning system to save power and give you more range. Well, I've noticed when navigating through the menus here that that is an option. So when you set it in eco mode, it's not going to touch your air conditioning and your thermal features. To touch those, so if you want it to turn off those as well to get even more range, that is an option. So most cars, as I said, once you set the eco, you get less power and less thermal features. Here you are being given the choice, which I like a lot. Now most days you're gonna have it in that normal mode, right? That is more than enough power to get you there, right? But if you want to have a little bit of fun, then the sport mode is also available, and that's going to give you the absolute maximum power from that electric motor, which, as I mentioned in my tech focus review, there's actually two different motor combinations to choose from. So if you haven't seen the tech focus review, make sure you go check it out. It's being also linked in the description of the video. In the tech focus review, I do something which I think is quite unique. I delve into and review the car as an electric car, which I think is so important, and generally missed. A lot of the key features of the electric nature of the vehicle are missed out from most traditional car reviews, and that is what the tech focus reviews aim to do on the channel. So I now have it in sport mode, and as you expect, the power is effortless. And may I point out, I am not driving the high-powered version of this vehicle. So this is the smaller battery, smaller motor combination. What also changes in the sport mode is the sound you are hearing, which, by the way, from the menus, if it bothers you, you can even turn that off, right? But I like it. It actually reminds me of the sound the BMWs make, and they paid a lot of money to Hans Zimmer to design the sound for them. I don't know who Hyundai paid to design the sound for them, but I like the sound we're getting in this Kona. Let me tell you what pisses me off a bit, is the fact that this car and so many others being released at the moment have so many safety features, which of course are great for the driver, for the occupants, and even other road users. The problem is the insurance companies don't seem to care about this, right? I've never gotten a discount because I now drive a 4 or 5 star rated vehicle, which I don't think is fair, right? Because the automakers are being forced essentially to upgrade their safety technology to ensure a high safety rating of the vehicle. But then here we are paying extra because this technology costs money, and then having to pay even more on the insurance. So I think this needs a bit of a look through, right? But as a driver, you're gonna get the safety features included nonetheless. So what do we have here? So the first thing that you may not notice is just over the steering wheel is a little sensor that's called a driver attention system, and the car will warn you when it feels you're not paying enough attention on the road. Now, what's great about all the safety features that I'm about to mention is that you can, as a driver, sort of tone them down. So the car will not beep at you all the time if you're over the speed limit. If you're not paying full attention, it will warn you and it will flash on the screen, but you can like turn off the beeps, etc., which is nice to see, because otherwise it's going to be beeping at you all the time, frankly. But it's nice to see this full level of customization. Now, another thing we have, which I do like a lot, is the automatic emergency braking feature. So that works using a radar found on the front of the vehicle that is detecting the car in front or whatever obstacle you may encounter, right? And it's going to essentially apply the brakes following a warning if you do not react in time to what's going on in front of you. I also have this in my car. It's never had to emergency brake, luckily, but the warning has come up, and generally the cars do a very good job in understanding the road conditions in front of you of when this feature should be applied. Now, besides the automatic emergency braking forward, you also have a similar system moving backward. So if you are reversing, right, out of a parking space, so to speak, and another car or a pedestrian crosses behind you, the car again will apply the brakes if it feels you're going to hit the car or the person or even a cyclist. So that's another great feature, not only for yourself but also for other road users. Of course, it has automatic lane keep and lane departure warnings and assist systems, which again you can tone down. What does this mean? Well, basically, using the camera in the windshield of the car, which is detecting the road lines on the road, the car will ensure you do not drift into the other lanes. And that's a very important feature. I think nowadays distractions are, let's be honest, so common. I mean, the infotainment systems, as good as they are, have become a bit distracting, right? Because you're navigating through the menus. Of course, people's phones still vibrate and go off, and a quick glance does occasionally happen with some people. And what I like about this system is that if you start drifting off, it will first ease you back to the center of the lane. If you do not obey or you're forcefully trying to change lane, it vibrates the steering wheel. You can change, so it's not gonna stop me. If I want to change, I can change, right, as I did there. But the nice thing here is that it's detecting the lines, and it does change the position of the steering wheel to steer me back to the center of the lane. There is an icon on the screen, currently a green car with 2 lines. That means it is detecting the road lines. When it doesn't detect the road line, which means this feature is not activated, it is a gray symbol. So you even know when this system is sort of activated or not. So that's a very nice safety feature. We see it in a lot of cars these days, to be fair. But again, I think Hyundai are doing a great job of how they sort of increase the level of urgency, so to speak, with the control over the steering wheel. So first it's a subtle nudge to the middle of the lane, then it's the vibrating steering wheel, and so there's a number of steps here. And again, it's all customizable from the menu. So if you don't want the car to say beep at you when it does this or stuff like this, it's very, very customizable. So another thing which I think is, of course, very interesting, and I know it's a question that a lot of people ask, what is the real world driving range of this new Hyundai Kona? Well, I've been driving it around today and I've been monitoring the efficiency, right? And from the efficiency numbers, we can backtrack, knowing the size of the battery, what would be the real world driving range. So again, I have the smaller battery, which I think is more than enough for Malta, a WLTP range of 360 kilometers. Now, as you can see, I did 3 legs in my trip today, one 17 kilometers, one 37 kilometers, and one 14 kilometers. Now, the best is actually the longest one, that 37 kilometer trip, where I averaged just 13.4 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, which means if we just backtrack that number, so we know that the battery size is 48.4 kilowatts. If we divide that by 13.4 kilowatts efficiency, which I got here on my 37 kilometer trip, and then multiply that up by 100, which means 361 kilometers. So that achieves the WLTP rating of this vehicle. Just to explain, for the most part, that was driven in normal mode. The air conditioning system was on at around 22 degrees low fan, and the air temperature today here in Malta is 18 degrees. However, we have to see everything, right? So I did 3 journeys today. One was an efficiency of 13.4, one was 16.4, and one was 23.4. So if I add those all up and divide by 3 to find a new average efficiency of the total journey today, 17.7 is the actual number. So we can take this number and work out the maths again. So it's 48.4 divided by 17.3, I believe, equals, multiply up by 100, we get 280 kilometers. So that is shy. If you take the average of the day, it is shy. But if we take the average, as you say, if we take the number, the efficiency from the longest trip I did today, then we hit WLTP. It's very normal in Malta for cars to hit their WLTP rating because we have low speeds, ideal climate conditions, right? It's not too cold and not too hot, very close to the ideal battery temperature of 25 degrees. And our low average speed, because we're stuck in traffic most of the time and we don't have any highways, means the battery and the electric motor are very relaxed when they are driving, right? They're not having to sort of floor it every time. So more or less, this is a very good range. We're pretty much on the WLTP rating, so nothing to worry about here. So the range that is being quoted at 360, I believe you can reach it. As we saw, I did reach it in my longest trip today. So I hope you enjoyed this driving review of the new Hyundai Kona. If you did, make sure you hit that like button and the subscribe button below and notification bell so you're notified the next time another driving video comes out. If you want to support the channel a bit better, the merch is now available from the link down below, and you can also join as a YouTube member, which does help support me and the people who help me keep these videos coming. But as always, I hope me and the new Hyundai Kona have convinced you that the future is electric.